Hello, bonjour. My name is Mike, and I am the Equity and Diversity Commissioner for PGSS at McGill University. And we're so excited to bring you a new PGSS Equity event called Voices of Diversity, which is a speaker series featuring an amazing, talented guest every month. Je m'appelle Michel, je suis commissaire à l'équité et à la diversité à l'Université McGill. Et aujourd'hui, nous présentons Voices of Diversity avec violiniste Jaedon Daly. We have Jaedon Daly, a violinist today, a black and queer artist who we're excited to have with us. And before I introduce Jaden, I'm going to pass it off to our esteemed internal affairs officer, Tina Giordano, going to get our land acknowledgement.
Wow,
Very
Mike, you said my last name better than I do.
Yes, parlo italiano, allora.
Yes,
Italian
yes.
doesn't, ironically, but take it
So
away.
yeah, I don't. That's a long story, but anyway, hi everyone. I'm Tina, the Internal Affairs Officer, Jim Tina, and I'm going to do the land acknowledgement. I would also like to thank all of you for coming. So we would like to begin by acknowledging that McGill University is located on unceded indigenous lands. The Ganyokihaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Jojage, Montréal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. And now I'm going to say it in French. Nous aimerions commencer par reconnaître que l'Université McGill est située en territoire autochtone, lequel n'a jamais été cédé. Je reconnais la nation Ganyokihaga comme gardienne de terre et des eaux sur lesquelles nous nous réunissons aujourd'hui. Jojage, Montréal, est historiquement connu comme un lieu de rassemblement pour de nombreuses Premières Nations et aujourd'hui une population autochtone diversifiée, ainsi que d'autres peuples y résident. C'est dans le respect des liens avec le passé, le présent et l'avenir que nous reconnaissons les relations continue entre les peuples autochtones et autres personnes de la communauté montréalaise. And that has been adapted from the Concordia version of the land acknowledgement. So I will just pass it back on over to Mike and Jaden.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Tina. Merci. And we see some other people filing in, some names I recognize, which is very exciting. And we're so thrilled to have you here today. And I realized while Tina was doing the land acknowledgement, I needed to go find Jaden's bio, which I went missing on my computer for a moment. But we really encourage you. Indigeneity is a really important feature of what we do at PGSS Equity, and of course, it's a really important ongoing discussion in Canada. And we really encourage you, if you're not in Montreal, to really investigate the land acknowledgement where you are and to really be interested in these issues as well. And if you like, you can put in the chat where you're tuning in from if you're not from Montreal, because we're very curious to see if we have some guests from all over, because everybody is kind of, especially during the summer and given the situation, some people may not be at Montreal, so it would be great to hear where everybody's from. I know we certainly have some people from Ontario recognized, so it's very exciting. So we're very excited to see you. Oh yes, we have someone from Etobicoke and someone from Connecticut in the States, so we can consider that an international audience just between our North American countries up here. But we're so excited to have you here for this new event, and we're really excited because in light of the recent conversations that are happening, we really wanted to give diverse creators and people, and not just artists, but people from all walks of life, an opportunity to have their voices heard and their stories heard, and to be an inspiration for us, because we don't always get to hear these stories and we don't always know they're out there. And a lot of us in certain fields feel that, oh, well, if there's not someone that looks like me, can someone who looks like me make it in this field or this industry? So myself, my name is Mike. As I mentioned before, I'm the PGSS Equity and Diversity Commissioner. I'm also a current grad student at McGill University. I'm doing my master's in opera and voice performance at McGill, the Schiller School of Music. And so obviously a lot of the people that I am connected to are in the arts, but we do have some guests lined up in the future that are not just in music and just not on the arts too. And if you have suggestions, feel free to email me and I'll put my contact information for you so that you can reach out and on social media as well. And we also have Chicago, which is Tina, of course, and St. Catharines, very exciting.
Mike,
And yes,
can I just do a quick event plug?
of course, Tina, go ahead.
Okay, so sneak peek to all of you who are like
Bonus
here. This is
content.
something that is not posted yet. So we do have a baking workshop in September that will be led by an Indigenous woman who was a contestant on the Canadian baking show. So that will be something to look out for in the coming weeks. Anyway, back to Mike.
Very exciting. And so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest, Jaedon Daly, who we're so excited to have. And Jaden, for some of you who may remember, was a featured performer at our June event, my very first event with PGSS Equity when I just joined in this role in June, which was our Black and Queer Voices Matter event with PGSS Equity, also on Zoom. And so, for those of you who don't know, from the violin studio of Jeremy Bell, Jaedon Daly is a graduate from Wilfrid Laurier University Music Faculty, volunteering as a violin teacher as well as being part of the Hamilton Youth Philharmonic has greatly helped him in his musical pursuits. I got to work with different people of all ages and help bring everyone together to make music. Performance has always been a constant presence for him throughout his life. Playing the violin gives me a sense of emotional satisfaction and is a healthy outlet that I've utilized throughout my life. He always hopes to have a positive impact on the audience whenever performing. There is no greater feeling than having an audience member tell me that my performance has touched them in some way. He considers this to be one of the many gifts of music. This year he volunteered to perform with the Chamber Quintet on Giving Day, which was a great success in helping Laurier's Faculty of Music raise over $175,000 for their Making Music Space for Music fundraising campaign. As he has thought about his future with music, he has decided that he wants to pursue a graduate degree in violin performance and possibly doctorate. As a queer person of color, he hopes to, through his studies in violin performance, make pursuing post-secondary music education more accessible to people of color and other minority groups. And as I mentioned this past June, Jaden joined us for our very first PGSS Equity event of the year, Black and Queer Voices Matter, where he performed and talked about his experiences being a queer artist of color in a Eurocentric industry. So we're thrilled to continue the conversation in more depth, and also we can have a musician on without plugging their socials, so you can follow Jaden on Instagram at Jaden79. And so I do have a short clip, but first of all, I wanted to actually hear Jaden's voice and to say hello. So welcome, Jaden. Hello.
Hi everyone.
Bonjour, bienvenue.
Bonjour. Je m'appelle Jaden.
Yes, Jaden's French may not quite be up to par, but that's okay because English
No.
is an English university. So it's an interesting city, and with this bilingual aspect, which is very much at play here. We're a bilingual country, but not quite so equally everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, Jaden, where are you joining us from today?
So I'm in Hamilton, Ontario with my mom. Yeah.
Amazing.
I grew up here and yeah, I've always lived here. So.
And Jaden is just on point with, as we were saying earlier before, Everyone showed up the romper and the flag is just so very exciting. And so I wanted to mention as well before I went to the video, just sort of the connection from Jaden and I. So Jaden and I are not strangers. We go not super far back, but pretty far back. We both did our undergraduate degrees in music at Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, Ontario. And I'm a singer and an opera singer, so I did my voice degree, and Jaden was a year behind me, and playing violin, obviously. And we did a number of shows together because Jaden was in the orchestra for the operas, many of which I did. And I'm trying to remember, so the last one I did with full orchestra was Cendrillon by Massenet, right?
Yeah.
Which is great preparation, because that was before I moved to Montreal.
Yeah.
And then French opera of Cinderella, and Michiko was in that as well. Shout out. Then, was there Tenderland? Were you in Tenderland? That was a very small orchestra.
Yeah, I was in Netherlands as well. I played viola, so.
And then, was that your first opera, or were you also in Hoffman?
I was in the Tales of Hoffman as well.
And that was your first year, right?
That was, yeah, my first year.
Wow, also a French opera. We did a lot of grand French opera at Laurie when I was there, which is usually not what students sing. So it was really exciting though, because the orchestras are very big, and so yeah, we. But what's very common that happens, such as in Schulich Music at McGill with musicians, is that we don't actually really get to see or interact with a lot of the musicians in different disciplines. So singers tend to know each other, and then maybe not so much the instrumentalists. But I remember when I first saw Jaden walking down the hall, I don't know if you remember, but you were trying to collect your signature for the concerto competition, and I was like, you were so like bubbly and like down to
Yeah.
earth and fun, and I was like, this is a special one. So, yeah, so it's really great that we found a way for you to come and join us here, not only once but twice. So I hope you don't find it awkward. I mean, especially as a singer, watching the way I sound and move is cringe. But I'm gonna play a video, and you can shut your eyes, Jaden, if you want, or if you're a narcissist, then enjoy as well. And I'm just gonna play a clip of Jaden performing a piece called Viola Nation, which I believe is Jaden's own composition, right? Yes, and it was at our June event, Black and Queer Voices Matter, our open mic event, where Jaden was a featured performer. And if everything goes to plan, because technology, then you will also see Jaden speak about it. So I'm just gonna play the video and let it speak for itself. And I should mention as well, we're going to have a Q&A portion at the end of the event. So if you feel comfortable, we can go to you live and you can ask your question. If you prefer to be anonymous, you can message me directly or I guess Tina, but I'm not sure if Tina is able to stay for the whole thing. So you can message me for sure. If you want everybody to see it, you can message the whole chat. It's up to you. I want to give everybody that ownership of, if you want to be anonymous and to if you're feeling a little bit shy, everyone's at home, so you know we all understand. So you can start now, or as the video plays, or during the course of the event, you can post some questions as well. Otherwise, I'm sure Jaden and I will be able to yak the rest of the time too. So here is Jaedon Daly performing Viola Nation, which is his own composition, which is super amazing.
So this is my original composition. It's actually for the viola, but I don't have a
I'm just gonna pause the video. Can everyone hear it and see it? It's working properly? Okay, good. Let's hope it stays that way.
viola because of the quarantine business. But this is called Viola Nation.
Mike, I think because your microphone is muted, maybe we can't hear it.
Oh, thank you. I did that last time, didn't I, as well? Where I muted myself and then the video or something like that happened.
You can
I'm going
also you can
to.
also play the audio from if you click share screen and then advanced options, you can play the audio from the
It's okay. I'm not
computer.
doing anything sketchy. I'll just unmute it so I don't mess anything up. I tell you,
Okay.
I'm pretty technologically savvy, but I hope
Okay.
you all know how it is and understand
Yes, we do. We
the
do.
Zoom issues. I knew there'd be something, so I was ready for it.
And it features a lot
We're
of
good.
strumming on a chord that I think it's a major chord for anyone who knows all that music theory out there. And there's a lot of improvisatory moments that I'm sure you'll hear. But yeah, this is Viola Nation played on the violin. Okay. Okay, I need to check. Okay. I was making sure the sound is good.
Like the sound just stopped, I think.
Sorry again. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna rewind a little bit. I turned off my mic because I thought, oh, I will only mute myself in the video, and then it still doesn't work. So you can hear me now. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, hopefully we're good now, and I will not touch anything. Bravo! Oh, it's so amazing. I brings back memories of when we had you in June, and it was obviously a discovery for me because it's something you composed yourself. So I hadn't heard it before, and I see the applause coming in. That's
Thank
fantastic. Wonderful,
you.
wonderful, wonderful. And was I right? How do you feel about watching yourself perform or recording of yourself? Is that okay for you, or somewhere in the
Like
middle?
it's in the middle. Like sometimes there's like moments where I'm like, oh wow, like this sounds good, but there's some moments where I'm like, oops.
I wish that was
Yeah,
pretty. Yeah, that's
yeah,
a real tough thing, especially live performance.
yeah.
It's obviously with everything going on, live performance is really difficult right now. But there's still, ways to perform virtually. But still, it's the same thing. Especially because if it gets recorded, then But that's part of the exciting thing about it being live is that you have that kind of excitement and what will happen kind of feeling. And the good thing is that if it's your own piece, you're the in that case, it's more you that knows than us, which is very exciting. And so we're so excited to have you, and we're so glad we have that material from one of our events to share with you. And so we're really thrilled to talk with you today, get to know you more, and to dive deeper because I felt like, we had, I think, 20 minutes last time to talk and for you to play, and it was great, but we felt like there's just so much more to unpack. And yeah, so first I want to start off. So I read your official bio, the manicured version. That's sort of we always have to, as musicians or professionals in general, polish everything up for this evening, the bio. So, for example, for you, so where did you grow up, and how did you get into music to begin with, on a more
Uh,
personal level?
oh yeah, yeah. So I grew up in Hamilton. Like I live pretty close to downtown, or like if anyone knows where Gage Park is, it's around there. Um, so I I guess I'll start with so my old teacher used to do tours to all of the elementary schools to like advertise the orchestra and just play for students. And she came to my school, which only went up to grade 3, and her orchestra performed, and basically everyone like really liked it. All my friends were like, "Ooh, yeah, like we're all gonna sign up," and then so we all like got forms and stuff. We're gonna sign up, and then like I'm skipping already to next year. Next year comes around, and I'm the only one who actually signed up.
Oh no.
Yeah, and so like I just showed up, like new people, like new teacher, like knew everything, but I don't know. I guess I instantly fell in love. Like it. I didn't sound the greatest. Started like as a beginner. Everyone. There's that first bump that you have to get over. But
Oh, for sure.
yeah. Once I started, I never stopped, and here we are today, like 12
Yeah,
years later.
the rest is history,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's really interesting because, and this was at your school, your elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really lucky because a lot of schools don't have string programs. I mean, music programs are being, and arts programs are being cut in a lot of places. And when I was growing up, I went to a few different elementary schools, and none of them had string programs. So I never got the chance to be a violinist. I actually started as a pianist, and then I started singing way, way later. So that was a detour. But strings was never really, I never really got that exposure. And then I only really discovered strings when I started playing chamber music as a pianist in my teens. So I'm really glad you got that experience because imagine if, the roles were switched and you weren't a violinist and
Yeah.
that would be totally a crime. So yeah, so that's really exciting and very interesting. And so for you, you just graduated with your music degree at Laurier University, and so you're kind of really fresh. And so, looking back, sort of even going to university to study music is a really big commitment because, your bachelor's doesn't really define you, but it is starts to kind of put you in a little bit of a box or kind of gets you to be a little bit more focused. So, what do you think, when was really the shift when you sort of thought, okay, this is a hobby versus this is maybe something I can even do professionally, for example?
Mm. That shift for me actually happened like my senior year of high school. So it was kind of all of a sudden. I caught my teacher off guard. She didn't even know that I wanted to go into music, but I told her I think the beginning of my like senior year of high school, and she was like, "Oh my, like people like take a lot of time to prepare. You should have told me last year." But I was kind of all over the place. Honestly didn't feel like I didn't know if music was an option. I guess, uh, like because all I had with my like only teaching is all I thought like you could do. But
Right.
on grade 12, being a part of the Hamilton Youth Philharmonic, I was exposed to the Hamilton Philharmonic. So I got to see like the professional orchestras and I worked with them as well, like summer camps and all that, but performing alongside some of those people just kind of enlightened me. And then that's kind of where I went into music full dive because I wanted to be a paramedic.
Ah,
Doing
okay, I
all
didn't
this
know
pre-paramedic stuff
that.
before school, and it's called St. John Ambulance. I'm sure if you guys have
Yeah.
heard the name before, but yeah, and then shifted into music, and
So
I
that's
got
super
into Laurier.
interesting. We have sort of that in common a little bit as well. I didn't want to be a paramedic, but I did two bachelors. My first one was in biomedical science, and I was going to be a doctor. I did a pre-med degree, and in my third year of that degree, I thought, oh, I wanted to, because the hot thing to do with all the biomed kids was to join the St. John's Ambulance and work as a first responder and get that kind of practical experience. And I was interested in doing it, but clearly my interest lay elsewhere, so it never really materialized. And I haven't looked back. But that's super interesting, and I think that's a really tough part for everyone to really figure out what they're doing. But I think especially if you're in the arts, there's not always, you don't really see a lot of examples of people doing it in their regular everyday life, especially in like Hamilton's not small, but it's not like Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal, one of the really big cities in Canada, or somewhere else. So sometimes I know for me, I grew up mostly in Guelph, which is even smaller than Hamilton, and I sort of felt the same thing. It was sort of, I really didn't see a lot of people performing, and I didn't really have a lot of exposure, and everyone I really saw was mostly teaching, and those who were teaching or performing when I did see them didn't really look like me, especially in places like Guelph. So it was hard. So, uh, so could we talk about, for example, if I may share, that you're black and queer, and that is a very much part of your identity as a person, as an artist, and for me as well, which is I think we really connected on that level because, for example, I did the Rainbow Reels Cabaret based out of Waterloo a few years ago, and this year I couldn't do it last year because I was in Montreal. Actually, I was in New York then last summer, but then this summer the pandemic hit, but they found a way to do it over Zoom, and it was really fun. I did opera and drag, which is a whole thing. Michiko was there, and Jaden also performed as well, and that was really exciting to see that you collaborated and really did something that embraced that part of your identity, those parts of your identity, because we're both primarily classical musicians, and so our repertoire is mainly of part of my French. People like to say the old white men, but it's very heteronormative, very Eurocentric, centuries of tradition, which is beautiful, but at the same time now it hasn't exactly caught up to where we are in social consciousness. So anyway, it was very long, but I'm a very wordy person, if you haven't already noticed. So for Jaden, I guess more directly, so how did you get involved with Rainbow Reels? Have you done it before? Because I didn't see you in 2018, so was it your first time
I
performing
actually
it?
did it. I did it in 2017 in
Oh,
the
so we missed each other.
yeah. I think
Okay.
I don't know. It might have been the first year they did it, but uh, it was an amazing experience, and that's why I came back. And I was a lot younger too, so it's just like,
Big
you know,
difference, because that was
yeah,
when,
lots
was that
of
in when you were
time.
in first year?
Oh yeah, the end of first year.
The first year, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, exactly. And so it was really great to see you again and collaborate and to be in that community of queer artists together. And it's not something for me personally that I experience all the time because normally I'm sort of the minority in the group, and then to have sort of everyone be queer, it was very inspiring, and it was only music, but it was also storytelling and comedy and artwork, and so that kind of celebration of each other's artwork. And a few years ago there was also an actress and someone doing a live makeup tutorial, which was also comedic. So I think it's really great to see, but it's difficult because not everybody feels comfortable enough with themselves, or they don't want to get too political or too activisty in their musical work, and they like to separate a little bit, which I think is healthy as well, and everybody's entitled to that choice. But I think for me at least, it's something I find very rewarding, and for you as well. But do you ever think about that in terms of, you know, that I think everybody feels that way, but especially being kind of in the public as a musician and educating, do you sometimes feel very conscious of what you say or what you kind of your soapbox, so to speak, or sort of how do you feel about that, or what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, like, I noticed.
Clearly, you found a way to kind of bridge the two worlds a little bit. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I guess like for like experience I've had, I kind of, I like any pain that I get with like racism or just awkwardness is
mhm,
I like to just translate into my music, and
mhm.
I kind of like dance when I play too. I don't know. It just all goes to the music. I know, random thing, random thing.
Well,
Um,
they say music and movement is so linked. They did studies, and whatever music people like, they tended to move more. So it's no surprise, I think. And
yeah.
for you as a violinist, you're moving a lot. Whereas someone's playing a tuba, they generally I don't know a lot of tubas who do a lot of moving. For example, tuba players.
Mhm. But yeah, like same as you, I've always noticed that there hasn't been like people who look like me, who look like us, like in education and like music wise and in orchestras. So I noticed them like more recently, like like in university. So
And so for you, like, is that mostly you saw at your experience studying music, or like when you would go to concerts as well, would you also see that trend as well? You know, I don't know, like if you ever saw TSO or went to Center in the Square and saw the KW Symphony or COC, Canadian Opera Company, something like that, or
yeah, it started sticking out to me more and more. It's like as the years went by in university. So like
yeah.
yeah, probably like by third year, I was like, like I don't see anyone who's like black or and anyone who's like I guess you can't really tell if people are like openly like queer, but so it's just
Yeah, exactly. And I think, obviously our race and skin color is something it's pretty evident for the most part. But some of the more subtle things, such as gender identity, queerness, there's some people, in a way, it's kind of like what people talk about, with passing, I guess the queer community, people normally, I guess, call it more like straight acting or whatever you like to call it,
Yeah.
especially this kind of, the varying levels of masculinity. It's an ongoing kind of topic, and so to really say that, okay, this is part of my identity, I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to celebrate it in my art, is, I think it's a very brave thing, and so I really applaud you for doing that, because it's not it's not easy, and especially when you're performing music that has a very loaded tradition, such as the classical repertoire. And there's also a laureate grad. I don't know if you're familiar with Darren Creech, who I'm going to put
Yeah,
in the chat.
yeah, they came
And
in before.
yeah, yeah, and I would like everyone to check Darren out. And Darren goes by the handle queer pianist. So I think it's pretty evident what Darren does. But Darren is just sparkles and bedazzled and short shorts, and it's just incredible, and very, very emphasizing the queer identity. And I was so inspired by Darren. And actually, in 2018's Cabaret, I don't know if you know, but I performed with Darren. I did Carmen in drag, and a jazz standard, which was, it was like a dream come true, because I think I met Darren the previous year, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, and then it just happened that we ended up being paired for that, and I was just like, are you kidding me? So I think the more I think I saw more queer musicians like me and being really proud of their identity, I felt like, oh, this is something that I can do too. There's that kind of safe space that kind of opens up. But do you kind of feel like you have, because this is more for me, but it to depend on you. Oh, and a poster just fell. I'll talk that up later. The heat's, I guess, with the tape, the heat is kind of killing the adhesives. But have you ever felt that you have like regular, more conservative classical Jaden side, and then a more out of the box side, or do you
Yeah,
feel like the same person, or do you feel like you have to tone it down sometimes when you're in a certain
Yeah.
situation or certain, you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly. Like, actually, like I've been spoken to. Like, I'm really bubbly and kind of high energy, but I've been spoken to a lot. Like, just being like, like toned down. Like, I guess the personality and like the
Right.
movement, and like,
Mm.
like I've been told that.
Some people see it like as flamboyant or whatever, and
Yeah,
I think that's, and I think not just as musicians, but people generally who are queer, that it's something that you face growing up, is that that's how you move and who your identity is. But when people tell you that's wrong, or it's not how the way things are, you
yeah,
internalize that. And it's, yeah,
yeah.
so I can imagine, especially like for you in an orchestra, it's very conformist, and a certain amount of that is kind of streamlining the visual, but it's kind of difficult. So, and for you, playing solo repertoire as well as chamber repertoire, as well as orchestras, and for people who are not so familiar with music, I don't want to toss out. And if anyone doesn't understand something we're talking about, just message us and
Yeah.
we'll explain a little bit. But solo repertoire is, what you just saw Jaden playing alone, and sometimes it's with a piano, is considered the solo repertoire very intimate. And then you have the chamber music element, which is usually with other strings, but other instruments too, in a small group. And then the orchestra is, the whole, there's the flute section and the violins and the brass section and percussion, and it's really massive and a really big, organized kind of musical experience. And so for you, do you feel that you crave playing solo repertoire because it gives you more freedom? Do you like doing both? Do you prefer one or the other? Or how do you feel about that?
I definitely prefer like playing with more like solo repertoire, like because I feel in orchestra like they don't want any like it's kind of like we need to be one first person
Mm,
like as a string section. So
yes.
individuality, I feel like it kind of goes out the door a little bit unless you're like the concertmaster or like and then like and you can share your. I think we can all share ideas, but for the most part, we just kind of sit quiet, play, and so I guess playing solo gives you like the liberties to actually, you know, you make your own decisions, like what you want to do with the music, and it's kind of like, yeah, like no one can really say anything, I guess. So,
Exactly. Unless they're grading your jury or grad recital or something, then it's like,
oh
well,
yes, well,
and that's,
then we're getting
yeah.
graded, yeah, and
And
everything.
that's a whole other conversation, the aspect about being judged as a musician, which is an art, and there are objective things about that, but it's kind of, it's studying music in school is it's an interesting experience. I'm sure
Very.
the musicians I see in today would agree. And I really agree as well because with a solo repertoire, you get to choose the music you're playing more. You have more ownership over that. You can play, for example, your own compositions. Getting a whole orchestra to play a composition someone wrote is much more difficult and more costly. And for me as well, I find the same thing singing opera, usually a gendered character and sort of in a very fixed storyline versus art song or concert repertoire. I can mix and match. I can choose what languages I want to present or what stories I want to tell. I like to do a lot of gender bending, and so I think it sounds like you have some kind of similar thing going for the solo repertoire as well. And so something really interesting for you, and I think it's a general thing with musicians because we generally don't have 9 to 5 jobs, or we do, and that's a day job, and the rest of it's the teaching and the performing at night. So it's a very strange kind of lifestyle, and you're just out of school, and so you'll I kind of encounter that more,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But already you're performing, you're teaching, and you're composing as well. And you wear lots of different hats. You also wanted to be a paramedic once upon a time. I don't know if you do that in your spare time secretly,
Yeah.
but I don't know if there's any other things that you do that I haven't mentioned or don't know about. But I would be interested to know for you what has been your experiences in different things, and do you kind of do it out of necessity because you have to kind of supplement your income or kind of diversify, or if it's more just you love doing a little bit of everything kind of thing, or a little bit of a mixture.
Yeah, basically what you just said, I love doing when it comes to music, like basically like pretty much a bit of everything, like teaching and performing and talking right now. But I also work at Tim Hortons. So
Oh well, we'll
that's
go there
like more of like
sometimes.
a 9 to 5 thing. But I actually haven't worked since the start of the pandemic and everything. I've been cautious, like just with I don't know, I've been afraid to go in and stuff. So, um, but my hope is eventually to be able to sustain myself through like music alone, which I think is totally possible. Like thinking of our teachers, or if I go on to more school, like if you become a professor, or so.
Exactly. That's fantastic. And yeah, it's certainly not easy. I'm a little further along doing my master's now, and I also lived a little bit more because between my bachelor's, I took a year off school and worked, and so it's not easy finding that kind of career path. And I'm so glad you were honest and transparent about that. It takes a lot of courage to say that, and I think now the side hustle is kind of being more embraced, and not just for musicians. A lot of people are finding that, and especially in this situation, this is not easy. And I was just watching earlier today, Screaming Divas. There's a hilarious show on Netflix. I don't know if you've heard of it. Sandra Radvanovsky and Carrie Alkma. It's more probably for us classical singers, which is very niche.
Oh,
But they're talking about their lives, and they haven't worked since the pandemic because they're performing at the highest levels at the biggest opera companies in the world, like the Metropolitan Opera, Liceo in Barcelona, Spain, and 11 out of 12 months a year, their calendar is full of dates performing, traveling around the globe. And like most musicians, anywhere in any discipline, they're performing musicians, they're just not working. And so they started this YouTube show. And I was Carrie on the one I was watching today. Carrie was joking that, or should I say Ms. Alkma? But I feel like when I watch them, I know them. But I respect her so much. I feel weird calling her Carrie. But anyway, she was saying how she was joking. Do I have to get jobs at Costco now? Because when's the next gig kind of thing? And big companies have and orchestras have canceled a lot of their seasons into December now.
yeah.
People are saying it's even going to last till February. So if people at that level are not working, a lot of people are saying for the young artists it's really difficult. But it's just part of life, and I think music will always continue, and we'll find a way. And I do want to say, we're compensating Jaden for this event today, and also for June. And so part of that was I really wanted to support our artists and our young artists, and there's a lot of valuable things that we could obviously learn from guests that are further along, but it's also great to hear from someone who's a peer or someone who's a young artist because we have to give them a chance and to let them share what they have to share and to kind of be that voice. And I think a lot of young artists are doing really exciting things because they're sort of thinking outside the box. And I think at the same time, this is a period of great creativity and a lot of really interesting things are happening. So that's really interesting. And in terms of education, because I'm not sure if there's any of the grad students on the call today, but there, a lot of us are TAs or work in that capacity as well. And so, as an educator, have you ever felt that parts of your identity, either your race or queerness, that that was kind of an issue, or you felt, um, was there any kind of, because especially if you teach younger children and you're interacting with parents as well, and I find often for myself, I find this too, you interact with the parenting side, which gets a little bit tricky. But, with students or teaching in that capacity, it's a little bit different than performing, but are there any issues you face with that? Or any interesting stories you'd like to share, either positive or negative,
Mhm.
about the education side of being a musician?
Um, I haven't faced like too many issues. I've had like maybe two to three students only in the past, so I guess I'm working on that department. Um,
You've been so busy. I mean, I did a pre-med degree, and people think a lot of times, studying music in school is like what you see on TV with like Glee or something, where they're just like woo
oh,
and partying all day
oh
and
yeah.
everything, and breaking out into mass song and orchestras all day. But it's a lot, and it's emotionally draining. And after you're done, you have to devote a lot of time to practice, especially as an instrumentalist, you more than me. So it's physically, emotionally exhausting, and there's really not a lot of free time. You're rehearsing, performing on weekends as well. You don't necessarily get to stop when it's a Friday necessarily. So, anyway, back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, I didn't experience too much weirdness, like, teaching. Um,
I'm glad to hear that. That's good. For me, I've been teaching since I was 15, so I guess I've had more time to have some weird ones. So I hope for you, it's not going to be such an issue. And I think for you, for me as well too. I think part of it was me. I was fighting my identity for a long time, and so I really admire that for you. You've been so positive, and as a result, I think that really shows in the Jaden fan club, which I see seems to follow you, which is really exciting. So it's wonderful, and I think it's really inspiring to be that role model for, for everyone, but especially for young children and for their parents. I think if they're really, I think people can learn so much more than just music and the arts when they go to lessons, and whether it's dance or drama, it really unlocks a piece of confidence in you and teaches you so many life skills such as discipline. So I think that's really exciting, and I'm really happy that we have that in common because I love teaching as well too. I'm not one of
yeah.
the. I have friends that say, I'd rather work at Starbucks or, as you said, Tim Hortons rather than teach, and they do. And so it's interesting to kind of see that. So something that you briefly tossed out, a little bit of a tidbit from June, was something really interesting that I was like, oh, we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
And you can feel free to, skip if you don't feel comfortable. But I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find my charger because I always forget that my computer needs electricity. So the real life version of and we have actually one of, I believe, Jaden's students' parents here today, who was also here in June. So I'm super excited. As I said, the Jaden
Oh,
fan club is very strong. And
oh
I don't
yeah.
know if you even knew, yeah, because on Zoom
Yeah.
you can't see the faces necessarily. So yeah, I also know specifically this person was here in June for the open mic. So I was really happy when they emailed me and raved about you, and I love to see that. It's fantastic, and we need more of those in the world, more parents like that too. It's really with the next generation we're going to really have a lot of change and a lot of growth, I think. So I'm always really excited when I see parents, with children that are really, really open and opening them up rather than trying to close and box them in. So, oh yes, so as I was asking, so last time you were saying that you're the only black one in your family,
Yes.
and so it was very interesting, and so I was wondering if you could speak about that and growing up in Hamilton as well, because I don't know how diverse it is, but I imagine it's similar to sort of Guelph and KW, where I spent a lot of time as well growing up with some interesting results. So I wonder if you could speak about that. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, growing up, yeah, I was the only like yeah black person in my family because like my dad's not really in the picture. Um, but
I'm sorry
so
to hear.
just growing up, I guess I always knew like something was a bit different. But for me, there's like a lot of coming into identity with like being gay, but also being black. So,
The dual.
uh, because growing up, like I didn't really get to like talk with many other like black people. But every once in a while, though, we went to Caravana. My mom took me, so that's a big celebration, and um, yeah. um, I guess for me, finding my identity, and like I felt like I guess it was hard for me because I couldn't relate like within the family, and I talked to my mom recently about experience I've had in the past with racism, and like recently because I felt back in the day, I felt like I couldn't in a way because like my family wasn't like black, like I don't know if they would understand, but I did. I talked, and like they do understand. So um,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. It's very interesting, and that's why I thought that must be a really interesting situation because for me, both of my parents are Chinese immigrants, and that comes with its own baggage. But growing up, they knew how what experiences were like for them navigating the world as Chinese Canadians, and so there's that kind of shared heritage. And I watch shows such as Blackish and Mixedish, and you see the parents educating the children about their black or their mixed children about interacting with the police and having that conversation, which is a lot of conversations that don't happen in a lot of other households. And I'm sure there's a lot of other questions or things that, as you mentioned, that you face that it's difficult or you can't really confide in your parents or they don't really understand. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of what I'm seeing now is that people are actually realizing like that that things like this happen, and even very basic
Mhm.
things like going to a store, crossing a street, things that people take for granted. It's not so easy for a lot of people,
Yeah.
or it's a challenge on a daily level. And I don't know if you've seen the TikTok challenge where they put the hands down, and it was eye opening for me too because people talk about white privilege, and I was thinking, well, I have my own issues of discrimination, things like that, but I think there's a certain amount of Asian privilege as well. We sit in a weird middle zone in a way,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that you think about and that are really challenging. So, and it's tricky when you don't have parents that can kind of guide you or kind of resonate with you on that level. Did you find that when you grew up and had friends, or did you feel that there were other people you can confide in, or over time did your parents were you able to make your parents aware of what you were experiencing, or
Like I've always like confided in friends and stuff. But I was in a weird middle ground, like being mixed as well. So there's
right?
sometimes people will be like, "Oh, you're so white for black." Like growing up, that was what I got a lot.
Yes,
And being gay as well,
yes.
I felt,
Hmm.
being a bit flamboyant.
Hmm.
I think that helped a bit. But yeah, so I kind of didn't really know where I fit in really growing up exactly. Like, yeah,
I
if I'm
can,
too light or, and then, so.
yeah, I can only imagine because I'm not mixed, but in a way, many experiences I have growing up from a Chinese background in Canada from immigrants, I do feel that kind of pull between cultures or confusion. And when I'm in Canada, I don't look like a lot of people, especially in the small city where my parents still live in, just outside Guelph. And so there's that element of feeling different. And then when I go back to China, I speak Mandarin, but I have a little bit of an accent, and I feel like I fit in visually, but not so much internally. And you know, I've even had experiences where people can tell I haven't even opened a word, just the way I move, the way I dress. Somehow they can tell that I've lived abroad or that I'm not mainland Chinese.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's weird, and you feel like, okay, what where do I belong? And you're kind of always constantly riding that line of not, but I think I know it's obviously much more pronounced for you, having two very tangible sides of your identity kind of pulling at each other. And
Yeah.
so that's really tough, and it's very complex, and that's why I found it was so interesting talking to you, because not only do you have the queer aspect, but you're mixed as well, and you're also a racialized minority, and so it's a very complex thing. And so that's why part of it is, we don't get to see those stories on TV all the time. We don't get to hear those voices. We don't get to really, or we go to a performance, we see a musician and we judge who they are, or we assume, but we never often get to hear from their mouth what they experience, what their life is like. And that's sort of why I sort of wanted to open up this conversation, is to kind of have people kind of listen and maybe hopefully spark something in them, or
Yeah.
have something where, oh, I feel the same way, or and there's someone that feels like this and they're doing cool interesting things in the world too, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's something, a field that they're interested in. So yeah, that's it's very interesting. Thanks for sharing, and I'm really happy to hear that the Caribbean festival. It was the
Yeah.
one in Toronto, the big.
We actually have our own. We've had them in Hamilton as well.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow,
I've been a lot like as a child, so that's where I could, be more in touch with.
that's great. Yeah, so Hamilton is kind of a little bit in between Guelph and Toronto. Like Guelph, I don't think has its own Caribbean festival yet, but maybe one day that would be amazing. It'd be super exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, um, I heard from a little bird that you may be willing to play something for us today. So, I don't know if that little bird was
Yeah, I
flying or
could
not,
play
but
for you guys.
oh, wonderful. Did you want to introduce what you are playing and
Mm,
talk a little about it? And now
okay.
that you stand up, we get to see the full glory of the romper, so this is very exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna change the angle a bit though. Yeah. Uh, okay. Well, you guys already heard Viola Nation, so um, hmm.
And I should mention I have a few questions in the chat, but you
Okay.
can also continue to send them to me as well.
Um, we'll do. So this is uh Piazzola. It's called Tango-étude number 3. So this is more of like, of a what is it? Is it more of like a Latin feel you would say, or?
Yeah, South American.
Mhm.
I want to say as well, I don't know if you know the Isabel Barikdarian Tango CD. Were you there when she did the gala with the Penderecki
Yes.
and she sang a bunch of tango? So I bought the
Yes.
CD
That was
only
amazing.
recently, and she recorded a whole CD of tango, I think in 7 languages, and
Oh.
also a Canadian soprano who also has a biochemical engineering degree. So one of my idols, also having done a science degree. So I'm in very much a tango mood, and it's great for summer. So I love Piazzolla. Anyway, go
Me
back.
too. I've
Sorry.
always loved it. I like the tango stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is Astor Piazzolla, Tango-étude number 3. I think I might just play an excerpt of it because it's longer, I guess. But yeah. Okay. Oh, before I keep going, I have to turn off the original sound. I don't know. Did that sound okay?
It did, but you know what? For singers, we have to turn on the original sound usually. So Zoom is
Yeah.
a mess for musicians in general. Anyhow, take it away.
We do.
Bravo! Give it up for Jaden.
Thank
I
you.
see the applause sign coming in oh, I see it on my screen like I'm in
Oh,
gallery
my
view, so I see all the little
grandma. My
applause
grandma's
and
here too. Online.
yay. Oh my gosh, your grandma's here.
Yeah.
Wow. As I say, the Jaden fan club.
Thank
Wow. Oh my goodness. I love it. As I said, I'm in tango mood, so I am here for this. I don't know if it's just the heat or I'm getting old or something, but did I miss the title of the piece?
Oh, it's
Piazzola.
weird. It's just called Tango. It's Etude number 3 by Astor
Oh,
Piazzolla.
you
So
did
it's
say
like
that.
it's an etude. Like it's actually I think it's for solo saxophone as well. But I have it the transposition for violin. Oh, I need to fix this.
Ah, amazing. Okay, you did say it, and I
Oh
forgot.
no.
Amazing, so beautiful, and I love that you chose a Latin composer as well too, because I've noticed in Montreal there's quite a big Latin community, and at McGill as well, on the
Mm.
equity committee that I chair, we've had two meetings so far. There's a few Latinx members, so it's super exciting. While you're playing, I also picked up this, highly recommended as well, Tango Nocturno by Isabel Barikdarian,
Okay.
and her husband is a pianist also on the CD, and there's a tango quartet. She came to perform, as I mentioned, a series of tangos with the Penderecki quartet, the violinist of which was Jaden's, or is, I'm not sure, Jaden's violin professor.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It has tangos in, and I love it because she's also Armenian Canadian, so she has that kind of dual identity, and she sings some "Thank you, Tina." And Tina has a great question, which I'll bring up later. But thank you, Tina. Tina has to go. Merci, Tina. Grazie. But she's Armenian Canadian, and she sings in Armenian tango, Finnish tango, and of course the Piazzola as well. But Piazzola didn't really write for voice, sadly, so he didn't write a lot for us. But she does the vocalese in Italian and Spanish, of course. So really amazing. And so it kind of I've been listening to it like on repeat. I'm afraid it's gonna wear out or something. But it was amazing to hear, and I love that you had that little glitch at the beginning, which was like the live version of my playing the video. Well, it was still better than the way I played the video, and
Oh.
being weird with the sound, but it was so
Yeah.
amazing and just reminds us how much we miss live music. And even when things don't go as expected, that's the fun part of it, right?
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing. So gorgeous. And
Oh.
could not have been a better choice. And I think we all needed that, especially on a Monday.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's like in Ontario, but here it was cloudy, it was rainy, and finally, just as we started this event, it's like been sunny. So it's nice now. But
Oh.
we could use some musical sun as well. So thank you for bringing that to us. So now we have a few questions. If you have any more, you can feel free to drop them in. And so unfortunately, Tina had to go. So Tina and I get along so well. I love Tina. I'm so glad that she's one of the exec for PGSS this year because she's just so fantastic. But anyway, and it's recorded, so maybe I'll send her the video. So Tina asks, would you tell us about that transition, about what changed from high school to university where you noticed that. So I'm trying to go back and think what you know, what she's talking about, what you noticed, but about the transition from high school to university as a musician, sort of what you noticed changed, I guess, in your music or what you're playing. Do you remember what we were talking about then? You said you wanted to be a paramedic, and you found out you wanted to study music and about a year before. But anyway, if you could talk about that, because I know for me, and then going to grad school for music, that's and in performance as well, that's another thing as someone in here can also attest to because someone is in the same program as me in,
Yeah.
in our audience tonight too. So how was that for you? What was it like? Anything changed in the way you
Uh,
thought about music
no,
or playing?
definitely. Just moving to Waterloo, right, and being on my own, like that was my own. That's why, like, I felt like I had to find my voice, I guess, and there's so many outlets that I found. So at Laurier, I started. That's where I really started composing. In the composition program there, I was thinking of being a double major. So so we have comp as one of my voices, and then just performing. And then also just the education and taking electives. I felt I learned a lot about like social inequality and like indigenous issues in my community engagement course that I took this year. So it's just I felt yeah, just so different so at the education, and then we have composition, and then performing, and teaching as well, I guess too. Um, Yeah, and even Violination as well. It's the viola, it can be like an understated instrument. Like a lot of like people love to bash the viola, so that's why I know, and I play the viola, and I'm like, no, we love viola. I felt a connection with the viola instrument, and this kind of being maybe understated and and all that. So like within the piece, like if you guys notice, like the beginning was all picks, and I wanted to have like a really dry kind of quiet feeling, and then eventually it gets louder. And then that can even relate to me with me finding my voice through education and school and being on my own. So yeah. Wait, did I answer? So she was asking what changed. Yeah, it was so be the independence, and then being in a new atmosphere. I think it helped me grow a lot. Yeah.
Thing. And I really love that about Laurier as well because it's a small music school, but it's really strong. I mean, Laurier is pretty much known for business and music, which is quite possible. There's a mixture that you can do, of course, but a lot of things are very polar opposite in terms of the interest and the approach in both disciplines. And so I found it was really inspirational because there was a really strong composition program and a real promotion of student composers. They had regular concerts of student composers, and as well, there's a strong music therapy degree.
Yeah.
I think one of the only, or if the only, in the province or in the country. Probably not in the country, in the province,
I think
but
it's the
of Ontario.
master. Yeah. That's like
Yeah, and then the masters, yeah, and then there's community music as well too. And so the courses you were talking about with Ingenuity, that was with community music
oh, like the courses.
or
They're
was
open
it
to all music students. Yeah.
amazing?
Um, yeah, it's because community music majors could also be a composition major if they wanted to. So it's kind of open. I guess it's just one of the paths you can take. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like that too. I think that's why we get along is that we're just interested in so many things and we kind of try like to open the doors rather than to close them. And I think it's wonderful to see that when people are, finding those collaborations and learning new things. And I know that I'm working in my role as PGSS Equity and Diversity Commissioner on a more less public side is, having the meetings with our music dean and with MGSS and MUSA for the undergrad and graduate students in music to kind of diversify our staff and our curriculum and things like that. I think it's harder in a big school sometimes to have changes happen. So, but I'm really glad I had that experience at Laurier too because I found there was a lot of things that we were open to, and I got to perform in a lot of student compositions that were really exciting and really interesting. And so you kind of mentioned Viola Nation a little bit,
Yeah.
and so well, first of all, before I ask Linda's question, for people who I think we have a violist here because someone was saying
Viola
Viola
gang.
Gang,
Viola
so I'm
gang.
really happy to see that.
I
Um,
think I thought that was a pianist, but or maybe they play viola. Maybe, but
Yeah, but for those who don't know the difference between a viola and a violin, so anyway, the viola, there are a lot of for musicians, violas are on the hard end of a lot of viola jokes.
yeah.
But can you explain for us? And you probably would know better being a string player because I don't play any strings, as I said. So what's the difference between a viola and violin?
So the difference is the obvious difference is just the size. The viola is a little bit bigger. Like I can't say like I think maybe is it 16-inch on the body? I don't know. But so the violin has the four strings, and so does the viola. But so the violin is from top to bottom is E, A, D, G. But on the viola, it's the same as the cello, but an octave up. So it's A, D, G, and then the low C. See the low. I don't have the string
I don't
right.
have that either. I'm not a bass.
Yeah,
So
and
next,
yeah, and the difference and the other differences are just in like timbre and sound. The viola is known kind of as more of an imperfect instrument. A perfect viola, I think it would actually be a lot bigger than than it's supposed to be. But then it's like you can't really play. It'd be like having something like a cello on your shoulder. But so I think that the imperfectness it adds its own texture, right? So that's why we need the viola and like in orchestras and quartets and solo stuff. But yeah,
exactly.
and then the violin is like it's supposed to be this is the perfect like like physics, like the physics of the instrument is like it's supposed to be perfect, like the Holy Trinity or something, you know. But that's how I would explain the difference between a violin and a viola. And also reading music, violas read the alto clef mainly, unless you're going to play really high, then it may switch to treble, and violins will always be in the treble clef. So.
Exactly. We have someone actually in the chat who said, "Here's the alto clef." So alto
Oh,
clef
wait.
represent,
Oh, that's
and
Linda.
I'm a yeah, exactly. I'm a high middle voice, so I'm like the viola voices, so that kind of middle zone, middly high zone,
Hi,
exactly.
Linda. Look,
Hi.
Laurie's
Oh,
daughter. I
we have a
teach
brief
Linda's
video.
daughter, and she works at the school as well at Laurier. So
Oh,
yeah.
oh, fantastic. Linda, did you feel comfortable saying hello? Did you want to say hi? Did you want to ask your? I was going to lead into why I asked that was about Violination. Do you want to ask your question to us
Mm,
live?
okay, I will. I'll gladly do that. Hey, Jaden, how you doing?
Hello, good. How are
Uh,
So good to see your
you?
face. I've
okay.
been in the
Uh,
emails.
I
Yeah, go
want
ahead.
I want to know why. Tell us about the background. What inspired Violination? You're a violinist, and yet you chose something in your kind of second instrument and made that kind of a real focal point, and it's beautifully played and beautifully composed. So, what brought about Violination, and what brought about the name? That's my question.
um,
Thank you,
yeah.
Linda.
So for Violination, when I'm composing, I compose in like a weird way. So there's many ways to compose. Like people make graphic scores where it's kind of very visual and you can see like what you want the music to do. But I kind of just go with like notes. Like I just build upon it. Like if I had a loop pedal, I could probably make a song right now, I think. But yeah, so I had to compose it as a for the composition course, like class, and I knew that I wanted to do something showcasing the viola because again, I felt I played viola in third year. I think we met at one of my performances, right? So that year I was playing viola all year and I was like, wow, like no one's really writing music for solo viola like at Laurier. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And like I play the viola, so I know what it can do. And after like, you know, after I started getting more like finishing it, I guess, like getting further along the composition, that's when I could connect it, like I guess with life or being I guess kind of like the viola as the underdog. So I was a quiet, like a violist. Like people like to say that violists can be introverts and all that, but um, so it starts quiet, and I guess it's the outspoken voice. And Viola Nation, I feel like it's empowerment, like Viola Nation, like woo. Like we play viola. This is only for the viola. It should be. I played it on the violin for you guys, but like yeah, like it's for the viola. But I guess
Yeah, I
viola
love it.
empowerment.
I love it because we're voices of diversity, and you're literally empowering the underrepresented instruments too. So it's
Yeah.
lovely. It's like
Yeah.
diversity in all
Going for
aspects of
it.
the word. Thank you, Linda, and it's so great to put a face to a name. And so, following up on that, I want you to tell us. So, I don't know. I don't know if it got included in the intro to the video I played, but yeah, you played violination, ironically, on the violin. So, it kind
Yeah.
of defeated the purpose. But it's not because you were taking a job at the viola. Do you want to explain kind of something that happened? And it's pandemic related, so it's very
Oh
timely.
yes.
So.
Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, so it was like, oh, like yeah, like classes are getting canceled, like your grad recitals are getting like everything is just done basically. Like we're moving whatever we can online. So basically, it was like you guys need to take your stuff out before this date because then the school's going to be closed and you know until further notice until they open up again. So basically, just when I was leaving Waterloo, I it was a school viola, so I wasn't sure if I could take the viola. Like I don't want to you know take it and get in trouble. So really, those are kind of the reasons why I didn't take the viola with me. But so I don't think it was allowed. But because I only have a violin here, that is why I have to perform on the violin. So I had to transpose it up a fifth. So the real violination is you know a bit lower. Not high and shrill. But
Yeah, I love the sound of the viola, and at Laurier, where we both studied, there's an amazing string quartet called the Penderecki String Quartet, and the violas there did some solo recitals, and it was just beautiful
yeah,
discovering this beautiful, rich, middly color, which is fantastic. And yeah, what you brought up is something we experience at McGill as well. The Schulich music, a lot of, I think even still, many people aren't able to access practice rooms and their instruments. And not only is that what they do, and it's not something that you can just put away. You know, you have to keep up. You know, like percussionists or pianists, their you know their physical and their mental and their musical abilities on high quality instruments, and they're not able to access them. And things are opening up, and a lot of the science labs have, but almost being a musician in a way is kind of being a subset as well. And we face some strange kind of discrimination as well, where which is kind of coming up in the pandemic. A lot of things, and theater, like restaurants are opening, and they're people are crammed in there, and yet a theater which has so much more possibility for social distancing, a lot of them haven't. So it's interesting kind of and musicians aren't really going back to work, so it's kind of interesting kind of thinking about that as a musician, feeling a little bit feeling a little bit salty in a way. So but at the same time, like, that's why I love your attitude. You weren't like, oh, I can't play this. You adapted it, and you also explained it, because I think with a piece like that where the whole concept is elevating the viola, it's good that you explained that why it was not played on the viola, and also bringing light to that issue, because it's not easy. And luckily you still have a violin, but a lot of people are not so lucky to own an instrument, especially if it's something really big or expensive, or even to play or perform or practice in a space that they live. I've gotten letters, and I'm practicing within the times I'm supposed to be practicing, and it's what I do. And normally I'm able to do that at a university or a theater or somewhere, and not be at home practicing so much. But this is the reality, and a lot of people don't have that even, and they don't have good internet access to have virtual performances or lessons. So it's a really challenging time for us. So it's definitely underrepresentation in many different levels. It's really interesting to kind of talk about it. But I love your attitude. You're not one to go, oh, poor me, boo-hoo, and hide under, like, you really, think positive. And I think that's really why I loved your energy and wanted everyone to sort of hear that, and to kind of be inspired during these times, because we all could use some inspiration these days, and some tango.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any other last minute questions, we'd love to hear them. I just wanted to read a comment from someone. Yeah, I wanted to read something someone wrote, that they're not a musician, but so far the conversation so far, I hope it stayed that way, is very interesting, and that they can follow most of the terms we're using. So that's wonderful. If you wanted any clarification as well, we're happy to explain that as well too. But it's been amazing, and it's been amazing also to talk about so many different issues in music and outside as well. And so, what's it been like, performing your own pieces in your compositions, such as Viola Nation, compared to the beautiful repertoire we all know and love that's handed down to us? But what does it feel like to play your own music and represent yourself that way?
Yeah, in a way, like it's very empowering, because with other music, there's usually like a way you're supposed to play it. Like, we go to university and they teach us this is how you play Bach, like, like this is how you do Beethoven. So like composing and playing your own composition is just so empowering, because you have the liberty to do it, to do whatever you want. Like like it's just freedom, I guess. Freedom in composition. Yeah, that I would.
I love that. I'm not a composer myself. I did write a song cycle for a class, but I never took composition, or I've never. I have it. I wrote it out by hand. So, so I one day I hope to kind of transcribe it and actually kind of really work through it. But that is not a gift I would say that I claim to really have. I love writing poetry, but not necessarily music. Is not really my forte yet. Who knows? Maybe pandemic. I'll be able to get something going. But yeah, like, think of me if you ever want to write something for voice.
Oh yeah.
So, and I know we have some singers here. So, just nudge nudge. I think that's so beautiful, and it's such an exciting feeling. I performed a new work, including one cool thing I did was a lesbian witch opera, in which, however, I played a conservative, straight, condemning baker in the town. So unfortunately for me, it wasn't so exciting, but I was excited to be part of that piece. But yeah, it's just a really exciting thing to be part of new music, especially representing gender issues or race issues or indigeneity in some way. It's really exciting, and to perform that yourself must be super, super exciting. Do you ever change anything slightly, or is it do you stick closely to what you've written, or do you edit, go back and edit?
I've
That's
always
must be
pretty
interesting.
much I've always been editing most of my pieces. Like I'll go play them again. Like Viola Nation is like it's pretty much the same, but I've added a couple things like
I love that. It's like living,
uh
breathing piece.
yeah, like the ricochet. Did you guys hear that? It's like
Yeah.
when the bow bounces. Um, the sol ponticello. So like this icy stuff. Uh, so I've added just more extended techniques on the viola or violin in this case to just to give it like more. I don't know. I'm opening it up, I guess, with more techniques, like different ways. Like it's not just the notes, I guess. So, that
That's
makes
super interesting. And have you done improvisation as well? Have you done ice or
I
yeah,
did
I
do
did that
ice,
as well.
but I did a gig. It was an art gig where I played along to an artist's photos. I think it was like I think 30 photos or something, and I improvised on the stage. Yeah, there's a video of it. I could send you the video, but
Yeah, definitely. I'd
that
love
was
to see
like
that.
my improv debut, and I've improved a bit.
Wow. Wow, so you didn't do it like in a class setting at Laurie or anything. It was like a gig
Not
where wow,
really. I
that's
took
oh no.
the intro music therapy course.
Oh, so you had a little bit of okay,
So
nice.
you have to do a little bit of improvising there, but they don't really they don't really give you many tools. They're just like just do it. And like, the music therapy aspect, you do it and you talk about how it makes you feel,
Right.
makes you feel
It's
better. Like,
yeah, it's more therapeutic rather than kind of, really honing that skill. Wow, how interesting! Because I definitely felt that improvisatory aspect and improvisation. For those who aren't familiar, is making up music on the spot. So, whose line is that anyway? Those TV shows, people talk about improv as in drama, but in music, that's also something that happens, and
yeah.
it's very tied to composition. But it's a really cool skill, and I love that it's kind of fused in that piece, and you're going back and rewriting and everything like that. So, if there aren't any other questions, I have a quick lightning round for Jaden before I wrap up, and then we'll just quickly give you some more information. I've already posted Jaden's Instagram and our PGSS equity info, but I'm going to put it in the chat as well. And so reach out to us, and we would love to hear from you. And Jaden would as well as appreciate a few followers, I'm sure. Thank you. I know some have to head out. That's fine. So lightning round. Here we go. Fave book. Do you have a favorite book?
Favorite
These are always
book.
hard because you have to pick, right?
I actually like the Maze Runner series. I'm sure you guys all know it.
Oh, wow.
They made a lot of movies about it, but that was the latest book I read, and I just enjoyed it.
Amazing. I don't know if you
Sci-fi.
drink. I don't drink. Nice. I don't drink alcohol personally, but do you have a favorite drink? It can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Um, maybe like ooh, at Will's they have that purple freezy. So I love that. I just love sweet things. So I don't really like alcohol, so it has to be sweet.
Oh, good.
Like you can't
Have
tell
that
that
in
there's
common.
alcohol there. That's like my rule.
Amazing. Do you have a favorite composer other than yourself?
Haha. My cousin. No, I'm kidding. No.
Keep it in the family. Yeah.
I would say Prokofiev, if you guys know Prokofiev.
Oh, interesting choice. Wow.
Yeah, he just has so much cool things for the violin, and a lot of it's like darker.
Mm.
Like my friend played his violin concerto this year, like, and it was amazing. So yeah, Prokofiev.
Wow. I love Russian music, so totally there for it.
Me too.
Do you have any favorite piece of music at the moment that you're listening to? Earworm?
Ooh, oh.
Any genre?
So I've been listening to. So this is non-classical, like this is just like random stuff I listen to. So this, I've been listening to a lot of like R&B and soul, and I found this
Oh,
artist named Malia, and she's yeah, and then
Malia.
Malia. She just has like a lot of like, I guess because it's so crazy right now. I just really like to just chill and listen to some R&B and soul and. But so
Summer
there's two
vibes.
songs. There's Fussy and another one called Naked. But
Okay,
yeah, they're just
interesting.
cool. I guess I'll just sit and vibe, I
Wow.
guess, to the music.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's an amazing answer. That's an amazing answer. That's why I love this because you learn so much from people.
Mhm.
Do you prefer day or night?
Um, I prefer the day, but like my sleep schedule is all over the place though, like so I can't
Typical
be I can't
musician lifestyle.
yeah, like I prefer the
Very
day, but I'm
gig.
not like a morning like I'm more of a night owl, I guess I would say.
Interesting,
So
like a healthy afternoon balance.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite city, place, or country?
Um, city, place, or country? Hmm. Well, oh, that's hard. I went to Whistler, Vancouver. My mom won a trip and we went
Okay,
there.
we have someone from Vancouver here today. I don't know if they're still
Yeah,
here because I know some people have to leave at different times, but we did have someone
yeah.
from
But I
BC.
loved it
Or
there.
not Vancouver, but BC, rather.
Like just,
Wow,
on the
amazing.
mountain and the water. I love water. Oh, but also Perry Sound. I worked a summer in Perry
Ah, oh
Sound.
yes. I've
And
been there, yeah.
up there, it's beautiful. I'm gonna go with Perry Sound. Sorry, Vancouver,
I
but
love it.
yeah, it's beautiful up
I don't
there.
know if you've been to Kincardine, but they have a summer music festival that I did as a teenager when I was a pianist, and also very beautiful up north in Ontario. Do you have a dream concerto or a piece of music you'd like to play that you
Um,
haven't yet? I love the Prokofiev concertos. Those are one of my favorites. I'm,
I
one of
definitely
those
want to play
maybe.
that.
But is there anything, out there,
So,
or like dream gig, like even a collaboration with some other completely unrelated artist, or anything you'd like
oh,
to perform one day?
oh, I don't know. That's a hard one.
Oh
Like, I'd
no,
love to play.
that's a big question. I
There's
kind of opened it up too
Sibelius.
big, I think.
The Sibelius Sound Concerto.
Oh, that's
Played a
big.
lot,
Ooh,
but
I
I
love
really
it.
like that concerto. But I would
Wow.
love to like write something and perform it. Like that would be
You
awesome.
would like to write the new Sibelius concerto, the
Oh,
Jaden
right,
concerto.
yeah. The new Sibelius Concerto
That's
by
a better ambition. I love it.
yeah.
Funny thing, speaking of Finland, I'm starting a summer music institute based out of Finland starting at the end of this week. So that's gonna be exciting. I don't speak it or sing any Finnish, maybe one day, but it's my little Finnish connection because I never had one before. So that's cool. That very prescient. And last question, no pressure. Any words of wisdom or anything, any quote that inspires you, either recently or something you've always had, or a mantra or something that you'd like to share with everybody?
Um, that's a
As
hard
I
one, I
say, it's
guess.
kind of like this is the
Yeah.
Anyway, no pressure. Whatever is kind of resonating with you right now.
I think just like it's hard to like say like just I guess speak up for yourself like uh oh my that's a hard question like just be you. Oh
Just be you. I love it.
yeah, it's I
Simple is
guess
best sometimes.
it's what everyone says like to like stop caring too much about like what other people because I've lived my whole life being like I've cared too much about what other people think and so
Hmm.
sometimes it's been a bit like debilitating like I get like anxiety from it so it's just like yeah like just learn to I guess relax. I don't know, it's a hard question but that's what I would say.
No, it's beautifully worded. No, I feel that as well. I lived a lot of time in the box and really had to have that moment, where I was like, you know what, this is who I am and I have to love it. And as soon as I did that, other people did too.
Yeah,
And I think that's so beautiful and it's simple, but it's a difficult thing. It's not easy sometimes. It's just like what Nike says, just do it. It's why it's a
yeah.
famous motto because it's so short and memorable, right? So this will be the new Jaden quote. We'll put it on our fridge next to the comp manuscript of the Jaden Concerto,
Well,
or the Jaden Opera, or the Jaden Aria art
in the
song that I will
works we have to keep it on the
premiere
down
one day.
low. It's a secret. We can't
Exactly.
tell
You
anyone
all are the
anything.
first to know. Exclusive information right here.
Yeah.
Amazing. What an amazing way to wrap up an incredible evening. I feel like we could just, I thought bringing you back here would have more time to talk, but I feel like there's just even so much more we could talk about. It's just so
Yeah.
exciting. So we're thrilled we were able to have you back so soon after June. And also, so our next one we're planning, the date is still TBD because it's still early. We're going to skip August. We're trying to have one every month. But in August, we're going to have a lot of orientation events for the incoming, all incoming students, but especially for the incoming grad students with PGSS. So we're going to focus on those events. And then in late September, we're going to have someone Jade and I know very well, Morgan Page
Oh,
Melbourne,
yes.
who is a queer black pianist. And she's going to talk about some of her experiences and her journey as well, and that's going to be in late September. May so far it's September 22nd. If you want to put the date tentatively in your calendar, but we're things may change as with everything going on with the pandemic. So we're gonna try to be flexible, nail it down as soon as we can. Hopefully sometime in August. And so stay tuned for that. So Jaden's Instagram handle is Jaden79, Jaedon 79. And you can also follow us, PGSS Equity, and we will keep you up to date on our events as well, so you can catch the next one when it comes. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and also email me equity.pgss@mail.mcgill.ca to find out more and learn how you can get involved if you're at McGill or beyond. We have lots of resources and things going on. And so stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more, not just musicians. Some of the other ones we have in the works, I don't know if I can say because they're still very far in the future, but hopefully we're going to have some people in social work, a poet, author, people working in history and arts, and women in science. So stay tuned, and if you have any ideas, let us know because we're still looking. We pretty much have our fall lined up, and we're looking into winter and spring, and pretty much if it's going to be on Zoom, and if we can do in person, great. But some of our guests are far, like Jaden's, and it's also cool to be able to have someone who we may not be able to have usually, given the distance and everything. So it was such a lovely evening. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. It was just, so many light bulbs, and it was, for me especially, because we're both musicians of color, especially had a lot of relevance for me, and having studied together, it's really super exciting and super cool to kind of talk about these things that we think about all the time that we don't necessarily have a place to speak out loud. And I hope it was enlightening and interesting for everyone else to kind of be the fly on the wall. And I hope everybody's not so shy and bring some good questions next time as well. We hope to see you again in the future. And also Jaden, find some way to bring you back as well too. And so really want to thank you for your time, Jaden. It was so amazing, and thank you everyone who came out. And tell your friends. We really would love to have more and more people in this series. I think it's super important to have these conversations, and hopefully you've had fun, and let them know about this weird new little thing that I'm doing here. And we would love to have you and your friends back next time. And thank you, Jaden. Thank you so much for playing, for sharing the time with us today, for being such a positive, amazing, diverse light in the world, and bringing so much joy and positivity to the world. It's what we need more of in the world, and especially during times like this. So amazing.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to everyone who came out. A lot of my friends, like my aunt, my grandma, like friends, and like Linda. There's so many people out here. So
I love that support.
Yeah,
it takes a village, as they say.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not as simple as saying, I'm going to be an accountant, and then you apply for the job. Being a musician's a lot of hours, a lot of rejection. So, yeah, I feel you. Wonderful. Well, we're going to wrap it up. I'll be here for a little bit, but thank you for joining us, everyone, and staying to the end. I know some people had to go, but all of you still here are the loyal ones, and I'm going to stop the recording. And so if we want to hang out and talk a little bit, I don't know if Jaden has time, but we also want to keep hostage. Yeah, so I'll stop recording, and then we'll have a soft closure.